1 Peter 5:7, casting all your care upon Him, for He cares for you. Welcome to Casting Cares, a weekly radio show devoted to life issues and relationships. Your hosts, Pastor Jerel and Merrily Hagerman, are here to answer your questions from God's Word. Email your questions to castingcaresradio.com. So grab a cup of coffee, turn up the radio, and let's get started.
Well, good morning. This is Pastor Jerel Hagerman.
This is Merrily.
And we're from Joshua Springs Calvary Chapel in Yucca Valley, California. And we'd like to welcome you this morning to Casting Cares. How are you today, Merrily?
I'm doing great, Jerel. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, too. We're so glad that you've tuned in. And basically, here's how this program works. You write us your questions on life issues and relationships, and you can do that by emailing them to us at castingcaresradio.com. Again, castingcaresradio.com, or you can even write us on Facebook and Casting Cares Radio on Facebook. And so that way, whatever questions that you may be facing in life, other people will be facing as well.
This program is designed for those of you that basically just can't get out to a pastor. Maybe you're new in an area, or you're just embarrassed. You don't have a chance to make an appointment with a pastor, or you don't want to talk to them about it, but you really would like a third person's opinion on what's going on in your world. And that's why we've designed this program. It's for you that really don't have ready access to somebody that they can ask a different opinion on. And so what we'll try to do is we'll try to give you just common sense for a crazy world, is what we like to say. And we'll also go ahead and just point out verses to you in the Word of God that hopefully will shed some direction for you in the future.
That's right. And you can also subscribe to us on iTunes. And that way, if you missed a regular program, you can always pick it up through iTunes. So that's a wonderful blessing. And all the programs are archived on there on Casting Cares Radio on Facebook, and as well as iTunes, and on our website, castingcaresradio.com. Well, Merrily, let's go to our first question.
Okay.
And it says, I'm closing the door to where He wanted me in my work field. My heart and mind are on a job, but it is also on my promise. Is there ever a time God may not accept our promise? I don't understand why I would have a heart for a job that He would never allow me to take. And so she goes on to say, I made a promise once in the heat of the trial, and I was afraid that I was keeping me from accomplishing it because I would accidentally harm someone in the future if I reached this accomplishment. I promised Him not to take a certain type of job. Now, if I wonder if by keeping that promise, the Lord's going to do it.
Well, we really don't know all that this includes, but what I want to say is that I just had such a wonderful time. I got to go out to 29 Palms Military Base just the other day, Jerel, and I got to talk with a lot of our ladies there with our Calvary Chapel New Hope Bible study that's happening out there on Monday evenings. And it's such a blessing to see these gals come out. And some of these questions are going to be addressed from some of those people that are out there on our 29 military base. And what I would like to say to her is that God knows what you promised to Him. First of all, you did it with the best intentions, and you came to the Lord, and you felt really compelled that you had something in your life that you decided you wanted to surrender to the Lord as a promise to Him, and that you have, decided to take a different maybe career path. I don't know exactly what this is detailing, but I do know that in spite of what we say and what we do, God still knows our heart's desires. And there may be a reason why that desire is still there for you to have. Sometimes she said it was the heat of the trial. Maybe she was emotionally going through something and she wanted to just, I promise you, God. But deep down, she really does still desire this position. But all I can tell her is that Jesus is her example. What would she see Jesus doing? What is it that God wants from her lifestyle? And then to know that He knows her heart's desire more than her words can even say. Keep in mind that your progress in life is a process. And what we're called to do is what pleases God. So is this career decision that you're really looking at and really deep down desire, would that please God? Can you see yourself in an opportunity out there in that position to really lift up the name of Jesus and draw others close to him? And that's basically what I'm feeling, Jerel. How about your ideas?
Yeah, I always come back to what is God's perfect will for our life. Because in Romans chapter 12, the scripture says this in verse number 1, Romans 12:1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may be able to prove what is that good, acceptable, and perfect will of God.
And my word to her too, Jerel, would be found in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 8. And it says, you once were in darkness, but now you are light in the Lord, and walk as children of the light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness, righteousness, and truth, finding out what is acceptable to the Lord, and have no fellowship with unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. For it is shameful to even speak of those things that are done in secret. And what she wants to be able to do is find out what is acceptable to the Lord. Is this going to be acceptable to the Lord, knowing what God's will is for her? And if it is, then I think she needs to continue to pray. God knows sometimes when we say things in the heat of the trial, and then later on we're really questioning, did we even do the right thing?
Well,
and so God understands that.
And I think that's where we have to remind people there is a permissive will of God, and there is a perfect will of God. And I think where all of us Christians need to get is to that place that we want the perfect will of God. And I think we have a perfect example of that. And Merrily, we were just there a couple of weeks ago. We were in the Garden of Gethsemane in the Holy Land. And there Jesus prayed. And as he prayed, he said, Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet, nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. And Merrily, I think that is the crowning moment in all of our lives where really we're willing to submit ourselves to the Lord and say, I want what your will is.
So many times, too, I think when we are preoccupied with what maybe could happen later down the road, we're never content with what's going on in our lives right now. There was a poem that was written by a 14-year-old boy that I want to read. It's anonymous, but it says, it was spring, but it was summer that I wanted. The warm days and the great outdoors. It was summer, but it was fall that I wanted. Colorful leaves and cool, dry air. It was fall, but what I wanted was winter, beautiful snow, joy of the holiday season. It was now winter, but what I longed for was spring, the warmth of blossoming nature. I was a child, but what I wanted was adulthood. I wanted the freedom and I wanted respect. When I was 20, I wanted to be 30. I wanted to be mature and sophisticated. I was middle-aged, but I was 20, what I wanted again, the youth and spirit. When I was retired, it was all middle-aged that I wanted, to have the presence of mind without limitations. And now my life is over, and I realize I never got what I wanted.
Yeah.
And, to be thankful for everything that God has put in your life. You're in that position right now because God has made it available to you. That doesn't mean down the road, you can't knock on doors and see if they'll open. But make sure that you are giving up to God and letting him have his will in your life besides your own will. And that's the best thing we can tell her.
And you know what? We're going to make this our chime in question for today. And that's this. How do you know what God's perfect will for your life is? So again, our chime in question for today, and you go on Facebook, you'll be able to type that out, is how do I know what is God's perfect will for my life? And Merrily, again, I think it comes back to this prayer of Jesus Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. And so for everything that we may desire in our life, and I love what you just read, because I think so many people lose the joy of where they are, the joy of where they live, because they're wanting something different. I'll never forget, I watch people raise their kids, and it was always, I can't wait till they're out of diapers, and then they were toddlers. Oh, I can't wait till they're not toddlers anymore.
Don't wish those days away.
And they wished all those stages of life away instead of enjoying each one of those stages of life. Because the bottom line is, there is a perfect will that God has for our lives, and we need to desire ourselves to submit to that perfect will and walk in His will for our life. Merrily, I just said that's our Casting Cares chime-in question for today. How do I know what God's perfect will for my life is? We want to hear your thoughts on that. And I want to read our last week's chime-in question. And that was, what is the best way to keep Jesus as the main focus as we celebrate the holidays with our family and friends? And Raquel wrote in, to always start the celebration with a thankful prayer to the Lord, praising Him to all the wonderful things He has done in your life and family, Deuteronomy chapter 8. And then Sandra Gregory wrote, be intentional. When we get off track, be aware and get back on it. I celebrate Thanksgiving and New Year's days as holidays, but Christmas is not a holiday. It's a holy day. It's not in the same category as July 4th or Labor Day. So we thank you for chiming in on those questions there. And again, if you would like to write us, and again, maybe what you want to write us is some sensitive nature, and we will be happy to make it anonymous for you. But understand something, that whatever you're facing, other people are also facing. So send us your questions, email them to us, castingcaresradio.com, or go to Facebook on Casting Cares. Now, our next question. This is a good question, Merrily, and I think a lot of our listeners are going to like this question. My question is, I have a 12-year-old daughter that wants me to allow her to start staying home alone and go places alone, walk to school, and she wants independence. However, I am a very protective parent because of the way things now are these days, and I don't want her to grow up with what-ifs. Should I allow her to do these things and just have faith that God would keep her safe?
Well, Mom, one thing I want to talk to you about when it comes to raising a 12-year-old daughter is there's going to be the time that you become not the child's best friend, but you become the mom. There are times when I can look back and think how unfair my mom could have been for not letting me do certain things. And now that I'm older and I look back and I've raised my children, I can see the wisdom in those steps. And you're not going to always be the most popular with your daughter, but I'm going to tell you, in her heart, you will be the most loved. And you are not called to be her best friend. You are called to be her mother. Actually, you're called to be the watcher of your household. It says in Proverbs chapter 31, verse 25, strength and honor are in her clothing, and she shall rejoice in the times to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and that's you, Mom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. And I love this verse. She watches over the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. It is your job, it is your calling as a mother to watch over your daughter's ways. And for you, when you're comfortable about letting her do something once in a while on her own, that has to come from something you're feeling deep in your heart, that you know she's old enough and mature enough to handle a situation. She can never dictate to you when she's old enough. You dictate to her when she's old enough. And that may make you a little unpopular, especially 12, 13, and 14. Oh, yeah. And that is going to be expected.
Because you're going to hear this.
Our mom.
Everybody else.
How could you be so unfair? But you're Mom, and you have to watch over her. Best friends will lead astray. Moms are there to the end and love to the end.
You know, Merrily, and I heard Dobson say once, you know, as parents, and this is such a fine line, to give out little bits of independence at a time because it's necessary, but yet not be in a situation that you're not watching over. And I know, you know, that when you were raising your kids, and for those of you that are listening, Merrily and I have been married for 3 years now. We were both married for 31 years and raised our families with spouses who went home to be with the Lord. And so I know, Merrily, you had said this, and we tried to do the same thing, is we tried to make our house the place where people come, so that the kids all gathered, because that way we were able to know what's going on.
Yes.
And I do know kids and free time unsupervised, that's not a good combination.
I can remember, Jerel, just for the way times were just years ago, too. I mean, 10 years ago or whatever, 14, 15 years ago, I can remember a time when we had just come to the conclusion that our daughter was not going to be allowed to spend the night at friends' homes. That's just something that we sat down and we didn't feel comfortable about, you know, when she turned 12, 13, 14, being in other people's homes when she was that age where we were out of the control. We didn't see what was happening.
Right.
But then that made more work for us and watching over the way of your household, because then all the girls were invited to our house to stay for Friday, Saturday nights. And so we became the go-to house, and her room was full of little girlfriends all weekend long. And that you are willing to do the extra mile. If you're going to make her, you know, you're going to say, okay, you can't do that. You can't stand that. You can't be out of my sight that much. Then you make sure you're inviting those girls along to come to your house and shutting the door and letting them have a good time going on in the, you know, when you're there and you can kind of see what's happening. That we don't stifle them and smother them, but that we let them mature to a grown woman that's going to be pleasing to God. And, you know, the main thing is watch over the way of your household. And how do you watch? Keep them nearby and let them have fun, but you kind of hold the reins, you know?
And be involved in their lives.
Oh, yeah. Know their best friend's name.
One of the things, and again, knowing what their best friends are like. Because there's an old
They're
adage,
not always the way they act around the adult either.
But the things there, birds of a feather flock together.
Yes.
You know, and so it's very, very important to keep kids engaged and keep them active. That's why, you know, I always encourage parents and their kids to be involved in extracurricular activities. Unfortunately, we live in a society now where there's way too many kids who are latchkey kids who get out of school at 2 o'clock and mom and dad aren't home till 5 or 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, and these kids are left to their own.
Lots can be accomplished in 2 or 3 hours.
And left to their own devices with no supervision. And again, you give kids time and no supervision, and it is a prescription for disaster.
I want to tell the mom that wrote in also is you can give permission, but then you can never get it back. Once you let her start walking alone to her friend's house, or once you start letting her do something alone, you can't take that back, because then they're going to have the rebellion. So
dole it out slowly.
Dole it out slowly. Do not be easy. You've got years ahead of you that she's going to still want more and more independence. 12, you still have the reins. I'm taking you. I'm picking you up. You know, 13, you still have some reins. 14, it's getting a little tougher. And then by 15, 16, lots of them times they're already driving, depending on the state you're in. So hold on to that control as long as you can, but don't overbear it. But open your home for these kids and their friends to come to your house.
And that's where Dobson says, and it's a great advice, you got to give a little bit at a time.
Yes.
You know, because they do, you know, and one of the things I always try to encourage kids, trust me, no parents want their kids to live at home forever. The whole goal is to get on your own.
Yes.
But there are a few short years where they need the supervision. And you know what I found, Merrily? I mean, everybody always thinks, well, I need to be there when my kids are little. Well, the reality is
you need to be there when
you need to be
teenagers.
there when your kids are teenagers. That's when they need more
than
watching
ever.
over and guidance. Yeah, they may be old enough to get themselves ready. They can even fix a meal, and they can even do, but it's their kids with adult bodies now.
Yes.
And adult decisions that can be made. And that is a prescription for disaster without a lot of guidance and a lot of oversight of being apart.
So, Mom, hang on. Sometimes you're not going to be her best friend, but in the long run, you are going to be the one she loves the most.
That's right. Again, if you would like to write us, castingcaresradio.com, and we do appreciate your letters. And it's wonderful, Merrily. Every once in a while, we'll get a letter just from somebody who says, "Hey, we're blessed to listen to the program." So we would love to hear from you. You can also go on to Facebook, Casting Cares Radio. And so here is another question for us, Merrily, and it says, "My husband and I have had an overwhelming desire on our hearts, and we have prayed about this and asked God to remove this desire from us if it is not from Him. We have asked Him to align our desires with His will. The desire is still there for both of us as strongly as ever. Can we be confident that this is part of God's will for our lives?" Well, that's a great question, Merrily. It actually kind of goes with our first question, doesn't it?
It does go with it. And there's so many different times in our lives where we're going to question, is this what God's doing? And all we have is God's word to point this out and what we should be doing when we have questions. First of all, I really believe if it is of God, Jerel, that it's something that will continually to burn in our heart, that it's something God will over and over again bring up and start pointing out what He wants from us. And then I want to tell him in Philippians chapter 4, verse 6, it says, "Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer." And that is everything, which means anything bothering your heart, anything at all, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And you're talking to the Lord and you're asking Him to guide you. And you know what? The Lord in the Old Testament and in the New Testament is continually guiding His servants with His eye and shutting doors and opening doors and having conclusions. They were going to start off here, but then they had en route changed over here because of a storm or because of a sickness. And all through the Bible, we see where God directs people by different circumstances in their lives.
You know, Merrily, what you brought up there really comes out of the book of Acts in chapter 16. And Paul had a desire in his heart. And it says, now when they had gone into Phrygia in the region of Galatia, they were forbidden by the Holy Spirit to preach the word in Asia. And, different people have different ideas of what that was. Perhaps, as you said, maybe a sickness or a storm. But after they had come to Mysia, they tried to go to Bithynia, but the Spirit did not permit them. So passing by Mysia, they came down to Troas, and a vision appeared to Paul in the night. A man from Macedonia stood pleading with him, saying, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." Now, after he had seen the vision, immediately we sought to go to Macedonia. And I love this phrase, Merrily, concluding that the Lord had called us to preach the gospel to them. And we know what happened when they got there. It was actually a woman. It was Lydia. And then from Lydia was a servant girl and the Philippian jailer. And God ended up doing a great work. So when you feel like God has something for you, and like in this case, that promise, that call of God is still on your life, then I think that you can move forward. And fortunately, we serve a God of open doors and closed doors.
Well, and Jerel, even in Titus chapter 2, it says here, verse 3, it says, "And when I sent Artemas to you and Tychicus to be diligent to come to you in Nicopolis, for I have decided to spend a winter there." He had come to the conclusion that God was leading them to that point.
That's right.
And that's what you'll do in your life. And that's what I had to do in my life. Even coming to Yucca Valley, I had to come to the conclusion that God was leading me to this new place. And only can that happen with prayer and supplication and seeking after God's face. And then it becomes clearer the more time you give it what God's wanting to do in your life.
And that's exactly, what happened in both of our lives. As I mentioned early in the program, our spouses died, we certainly didn't want to make a mistake, even in getting married, and starting our life together. So I think it's real important. You know what the good news is? When it's the Lord, it comes to pass. And even though we don't understand everything at the time, everything ends up working out.
And I think that a lot of times, too, it doesn't hurt to knock on doors. If this is a job opportunity or maybe somewhere you think you're needing to move, you can always knock on doors and allow God to shut those doors.
That's right.
And, God, if you want me here, I pray that they call me back and that I get a second interview. But, Lord, if you're shutting that door, don't ever let me hear from them again. And those are how we live our lives as Christians, submitting our desires to the Lord and then letting His will be done.
That's right. So, one last thing before we conclude our program, and again, please email us at castingcaresradio.com, and that is, Merrily and I have an opportunity that you are welcome to join us on. We are planning a church trip to Ireland next year, September 19th through 27th. That's 9 days. And so if you're interested, our brochure is on our website, castingcaresradio.com. You'll be able to leave from anywhere in the United States and join together in a great opportunity with Christians and have a great time of fellowship together. So we invite you to be a part. It's going to be fun, huh?
It's going to be great. If you have Irish heritage out there, or if you just wanted to go see,
she's got some Irish heritage.
Come join us, and it'll be a great time in Dublin.
All right. Hey, we are so glad that you tuned in today. Again, please write us, castingcaresradio.com. Go to our Facebook and become friends with us. God bless you and have a great week.
Love Jesus and go to church.
Thanks for tuning in to Casting Cares. Pastor Jerel and Merrily will be here next week at the same time to answer more of your questions on life issues and relationships. Email questions to castingcaresradio.com. And remember 1 Peter 5:7, casting all your care upon Him, for He cares for you.